Hey, MBA hopefuls. Welcome to MBA Waves. You are on the air, talking all things business and education. My name is Eric Lucrezia, as always, joined by my co-host, Bara Sapir. How you doing, Bara?
I'm great. Good to see everyone on the last episode of the year. Amazing. We got through 2022. Amazing.
It is the end of 2022, and this episode we're dedicating to kind of like a year wrap up. This episode's title is New Year's Resolutions: Making Yourself a Better MBA Candidate for 2023. We have some exciting guests joining us today. We have actually 4 guests, and so we're going to go around the room, and I'll call you out and let you introduce yourselves. You can say your name, what you do, where you're from, where you're streaming from, and let's do this. So why don't we start with, I don't know, Kritika.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kritika, and I'm one of the co-founders at Career Labs. Thanks so much, Eric and Bara, for having me here on MBA Waves. And I'm chiming in all the way from Bangalore. It's close to midnight here, but so excited to be part of this conversation on New Year's resolutions.
Awesome. Thanks, Kritika. And Alison, hey, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Alison Acerra, and I am phoning in from San Francisco at the moment, but I am based in Austin, Texas. And I am a registered dietitian, functional nutritionist, and nutrition and hormone health coach. And I am happy to be here.
Nice. Thanks, Alison. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Hey. Hi, I'm Jason Bone. I'm a personal trainer. I live in London, where I'm streaming from today. Super excited to have a chat about New Year's resolutions.
Thanks, Jason. And last but not least, Betty Ray.
Hey there, my name is Betty, and I am calling in from the opposite side of the Bay in San Francisco Bay Area in Emeryville. I run the Center for Ritual Design, where I'm a life transition coach, working specifically with people in life transitions and creating rituals to help them integrate those transitions more mindfully and more effectively.
We are truly global today. Truly global today. We've got India, France, UK, and 3 in the US. Awesome. So we thought we'd kick off the episode just by sharing our own New Year's resolutions. Why don't we go in reverse order? We just presented each other. Betty, what is your New Year's resolution for 2023?
Well, I have to say I don't love the word resolution, and I use instead the word intention because resolution can be really binary, yes or no. If you fail, you fall off the truck, and then you're not doing it anymore. So my intentions are to write every day, to meditate, and to do some speaking engagements once a month.
Nice.
So kind of space them out. Time, kind of a weekly one, a daily one, and a monthly one.
That's good. It's a good way to think about it, like in terms of goal setting, right? Something you can do very regular, semi-regularly, and then long term.
Exactly.
All right, Jay, what do you got?
Well, do you know what I like to set fairly simple tasks when it comes to something like this. I mean, I agree with what you say about intentions and setting resolutions. If you fail, you feel like you failed. So my kind of thought was this year's been pretty tough. So I've kind of put self-affirmations of, when you're kind of setting your goals and you're always kind of looking forward, which is important. But I also think it's important to remind yourself of what you've achieved, what you've gone through, the battles you've gone through, and what you're able to achieve in the future as well. I think I don't do enough of it personally, and I'm pretty sure most people don't either.
No. Nice. All right, Alison.
Yeah, I like to think of what most people call resolutions as commitments to myself. And so when I think about what I want to commit to in my future, it feels empowering. It feels like there's something really beautiful about committing back to me and my future. And so for me, it's really about what I can do to continue to build more energy. And I know that when I have just massive amounts of energy, that I feel just unstoppable. I feel really connected to myself. I feel connected to other people. And so for me, building energy is just having a very consistent mindset practice, journaling, meditation. And for me, it's just kind of building more movement into my day that actually helps me build more energy and really kind of stay focused and clear in my mind and my body. And sleep is always a really important one. So I'm committing to all of the things.
Do not get enough of that myself. Kritika.
All right, so I'm going to keep it simple. I wanted to try something. Resolution always scared me because, you're resolving something. That's how it felt before. But this time, I want the resolutions to last past January 31st, 2023. And therefore, I'm going to keep it simple with three words, ABC. For me, A means action, like a bias for action. B is for balance. I need to seek more balance between work and life, and I want to integrate work into my life. And three is the C is for connection because I really want to invest more time in connecting. So I want these three words to guide me towards whatever I take up. And I'm going to say no to everything else that do not fall into this.
That's a good idea, setting limits and boundaries.
Yeah.
Bara on the Bay, what you got?
I'm so excited that there's all these Bay people here today, by the way. I just want to call out to my peeps in the Bay. So the two things that are coming that are live for me, one is that I want to be more intentional, right? Like I just want to have just have a little bit more pause and more mindfulness in the moments. And I also want to integrate more creativity. When I lived in New York, I was living as an artist more than an educator and a business owner. And so weekly, I'd like to produce something. It could just be writing. It could be something visual. It could be curriculum around creativity. But I want my moments to be intentional and sort of fertile with creativity as well. So I'm sort of keeping it simple, but very, very rich, very, very open. That's where I'm at. How about you, Eric? Where are you at with
between like coaching and MBA Waves and the book series I've been working on, and I'm trying to stay like healthy and see friends and family, it's like I just find myself I'm all over the place and I need to be more structured. And the word that comes to mind is discipline. So my intention, not resolution, is being more disciplined. And I'm going to achieve that with meditation. I think that starting your day, it's a bit weird. Like you've just woken up and it's like, I've been rested. I'm going to go sit there and be quiet for 20 minutes. But yes, it like gets your brain while it's awake to start your day, I think, in the right mindset and have that discipline. And then like, I want to do it twice a day. I'm going to do like an afternoon one too, to like kind of bring it back, a little siesta maybe. So yeah.
Eric, you added a D to my ABC.
Yeah. You don't have too many letters though. I just want to remind everyone who's watching, listening today, you can ask any of these fantastic guests any questions you might have. You can write them into the comments and be happy to answer them. And speaking of which, we have such not only a diverse, like geographically set of guests, but like in various, we got like body, mind, and soul here. The nutritionist, the trainer, and ritual designer. So that said, I mean, MBA Waves is all about people who are thinking about going for an MBA program, who are in the process of applying, who may have questions, doubts, who want to gain some insights. That's what it's all about on MBA Waves. So that's what it's all going to connect back to. So that said, I wanted to get into some of the questions that Kritika, you had some things you wanted to ask off the bat, I think, right?
Yes, yeah, I would love to kick this off. So one of the things that I always think of when we look at MBA hopefuls is that they have to balance a side project like the MBA application journey along with everything else that's going on in their lives. So my question to Alison, Betty, and Jason would be like, what are some ways that people could balance this extra project along with, which is also very, very intense because it's not a short ride. It's going to be there for quite some time, for at least 6 months. So how can they take this kind of a project along with literally the rest of their lives?
So like integrating this new project of applying for an MBA into an already busy life, right?
Right, yeah.
So yeah, by the way, just to say for the panelists, any question is fair game for any of you. Any of you who wants to answer, feel free to jump in.
I can start with the exercise side of things. Obviously, it is very difficult. Like a lot. If I think back of my clients that are extremely busy, quite often having to juggle their work and lifestyle, families, and also getting exercise is very difficult. But I think the best thing to do is to start something small. Create a habit create something in your lifestyle that it's not going to take up too much time. So for example, if you're going to the gym, the gym might be a bit too far away for you, so that's an extra 30 minutes you've got to add on. So I would probably get people to start off with a 20-minute workout that's on YouTube or something similar, something that's achievable that you can do in 20-30 minutes. Make that part of your life, and then as you kind of improve on it and you start to enjoy it and you realize the benefits of it, you can kind of create a little bit more time as you go on.
Like that slow build.
Yeah, and I would just add on to that. I mean, certainly movement is so important and crucial for building and maintaining more energy. As I was sort of sharing a little earlier, is my commitment to myself. But when it comes to actually how we can sort of build more energy into our day, I think it really is important to think about and even prioritize the food we're eating, because there's foods that are absolutely going to support our energy, support our health, give us the nutrients we need literally to stabilize our mood, to be clearer minded, to have more physical energy, right? And all of this, when we are fueling our body, means that we have more energy to put out. And, you know, when we compromise the quality of our food, maybe we're eating more processed foods or packaged foods, more sugar, these are really depleting on our body and actually put a lot more undue stress on our body and deplete our energy levels. So that's the first thing, is really as much as possible. And it's really very simple. I think, you know, moving away again from processed foods to more whole foods. And while of course, you know, that comes with needing to put a little bit more time and prioritizing meal preparation, that is actually, you know, a really great strategy is actually taking some time out, you know, whether it's 10 to 15 minutes, you know, at the start of your week to determine what is your food plan for the day. And you're really just taking the guesswork out of you know, decision making, right? So when you are busy, when you do have a lot going on, you have a plan in place that works for you and that's supporting you to make sure that you're getting in the food that you need. So I do think that they're, you know, investing a little bit of time in planning and preparation actually returns you just a lot more time in the energy you're able to build.
There's something about planning, because I feel like a lot of people's like, oh, I have to take the time to plan, I have to take the time to cook and then clean and all that stuff. But two things, as you said, I think there's a return on that. Like maybe not planned, like you just go for something last minute, you spend more time than you realize trying to futz around and find a place to get something. And also maybe the process of cooking or washing up can actually be meditative in a way that calms you. So there's something you can like incorporate those things. Yeah. Sorry, Jason, you going to say something? Or
yeah, no, I'm just saying I absolutely agree. I think that one of the most important things with my clients when I'm talking about nutrition, obviously I don't go into depth with nutrition, but in terms of just preparation is so important. If you're waking up in the morning and you're sitting there, you don't know what to eat, you don't know what's in the fridge, that's time wasted. Before you know it, you've probably missed your meal, and then you'll go, oh, I'll catch up with that later. Food is your energy, right? So if you're not prepared, if you're not preparing what your foods are, then you're already falling behind. So yeah, you're absolutely right there.
Yeah, I think there is really something important here about what both of you are saying, in this idea of taking a pause before you get started in your day and building sort of a ritual around the beginning, and whether that's a meditation practice or a writing practice. For me, I make my coffee and I sit with my book and I just write down all of my goals. And I actually have my goals, like monthly goals, at the top of my, like on my wall, and I can look at them and just be like, okay, like, is this tracking? Is this tracking with my goal? And to really take the time to eat well, get into a grounded place where you can actually prepare to do the work that's hard. You know, I've been trying to write a book, and I'm like the classic example of like, oh, I've got to write this book and I've got a deadline. And I'm like, you get to the computer, it's like, oh, it's time to write. And you're like, oh, I have to write. And you're in this like anxiety brain, like it's not. And I write really badly when I do that. But when I sit and I take the time, and maybe I've made my good meal and I've done my meditation while I clean, and like my kitchen looks good, and then I sit down, I can really jam it out. And so I think just being aware of what kind of headspace gives you the most creative lift, in addition to your body space. Obviously, these all work together, but like that you can really get the creative lift, paying attention to, for example, the time of day, right? I'm a morning person. I love working in the morning. Some people aren't. And being iterative with that, not like scattered, but like strategic. Okay, I actually write better in the night. So organize around that so that you're paying attention to your own inner rhythms and then creating a ritual to get yourself started. So like, okay, whenever I light this candle, whenever I've done the dishes and I light the candle and I just sit and get in silence for 30 seconds, and then like it primes the brain to be able to be in the engaged place that you're wanting it to be for this project. And if you start to notice that you're getting off your game, go do something else and come back. So you're giving yourself like a nice pause so that you're like, I'm not going to force myself to do it under these poor conditions. I'm going to do it when the conditions are better.
There's something really to be said about ritual and conditions, because having either the space or the objects around you or the right music that you associate with creativity, productivity, where it gets you in that mindset. It's so incredible how that works, how humans are influenced by those things. Like for me, if I'm doing yoga, I have this one playlist that I know, and it's like, okay, if I don't have that playlist on, I get distracted. I start like looking at the wall or my toenails or something. Like, if I need to like write or answer emails, whatever, I put on like Chopin, and it's classical music that gets my brain on the right wavelength. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
I want to pop on like circling back to something that Jason said earlier, which I think is beneficial to what everyone has been saying, which is the affirmation piece that you were talking about and acknowledging where you're at, and everything that each of you just said. Once you accomplish it, if you can acknowledge it in yourself, you can create a dopamine loop, right? Mm-hmm. You can get that dopamine loop moving so that you feel really good about it, and then you want to do it again. So I'm going to try and initiate even more growth mindset. That's really what it is, of seeing like that I'm moving in the direction I want to move in. And then if I don't, and I'm not in alignment, like you were saying, Betty, then I don't have to give myself a hard time. I could be like, oh, isn't that interesting? I wonder what that trigger was, learn from it, and then just course correct. So that's something that in my intention setting, that I want to initiate more of this year. And I think that that's helpful for MBA students. It's really, everything we're talking about is helpful for everybody, right? Like these are all human conditions, human ways of moving through the world. What's going to make us lighter, happier, more joy, especially like, at least in North America right now, it's the coldest, darkest time of the year, right? So what can we bring more of what we want and who we want to be into the mix?
Just to piggyback on what everyone's saying, I mean, guys in the audience, if what you're hearing from these experts sounds like the conventional wisdom you've heard all the time, all your life, from your mother, your school teacher, or perhaps a religious person in your church or whatever, I mean, because these things are real and these things are true. The whole MBA journey, and it really is a journey that can take anywhere from a couple of months to a year and a half, 2 years sometimes for people. But there are some key moments. Think about the GMAT, particularly where you really want to be on your game. This is really Bara's expertise.
Yes, you do.
Right? The GMAT moment, but also that moment that you're preparing for an interview and about to go into an interview, when you want to be sharp, you want to be present, you want to be all those things. I'm thinking, like, just to go a little bit deeper with our three guest panelists today, what are some either perhaps exercises you can do, whether it be body or spirit, or foods you can, very specific, like foods you might want to go for to be ready for taking a test, like a 3.5 hour GMAT exam, or being ready for an interview? Who wants to take it?
Yeah, I could jump in first with the exercise. It's interesting how there's a lot of kind of links between exercise and the ability to concentrate, focus, cognitive skills can all be linked to particularly aerobic exercise. I mean, any form of exercise can help, but the aerobic exercise can really help with that. And I mean, only kind of 20 minutes can really improve.
I've heard, like, having just like short spurts of exercise, maybe once or twice a day, or every day, having a short exercise versus like an hour and a half once or twice a week.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely kind of studies that show that just 20 minutes a day. I mean, you say just 20 minutes. I just did a 20-minute workout before I came on here, and it really woke me up. I mean, I've had a fairly busy day, and I was kind of like, right, okay, I need to get my training in. I mean, a 20-minute HIIT workout, you get a sweat on, like it's quite tough. If you're again going back to preparation, if you're prepared and you know what you've got to do, the moment you walk into the gym or you start your YouTube or whatever you're doing, if you're prepared and you know what you've got to do, you can walk in, do your warm up, do your workout, 15, 20 minutes and stretch, and you're out. And the energy that you feel, the focus that you feel from that, it really is. I mean, I personally don't find anything better, but I'm sure others maybe.
Yeah.
So Jason, I have a question here for you. So it's great that you have like small workouts you suggest small workouts, but what about people who always give you the excuse that, hey, I don't have the time. I'm already stressed out and I already have too many things going on.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's a difficult one. It's either kind of, it's difficult to say you've always got to make time, because as you said, it's hard. But if someone's stressed, that takes up time. So if there's a way that you can, as I said, like 10 minutes, if you said, right, okay, walking is a great stress release. Okay. So if you can say to yourself, right, okay, do you know what? I'm not going to get the tube, or I'm going to walk that extra bit, or I'm going to walk to the next tube, something like that. That's a way to increase your heart rate and work you from there. And if you're able to do that, then you can kind of progress it. It's about kind of, everyone is individual, baby steps to create that. And it's something that, I mean, if anyone says to me that they haven't got 20 minutes in their day, I would love to see their daily plan, because it would be pretty tough to not have 20 minutes in a day.
We're very good at wasting time and time with nothing. And like smartphones alone absorb so much of it.
Right. I think we make time for what is most important for us, and if what is most important for us is doing great on the GMAT, or getting into our dream MBA school, then I think that we have to make time. We're going to make time for studying. We're going to make time to do the work to get to meet our goal. And I think that means that we have to consider our nutrition, our movement, our mindset practices as part of that strategy. And as important as studying for the GMAT, what we eat, how we move, and how we're managing our mind are going to be part of that strategy to get us to success. So it almost feels like it needs to be part of the program.
Being aware how important these things are to the total success story of preparation.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what you say there about, if you create time to work on your nutrition, work on your mindfulness, work on your exercise, if you create small portions of that at the beginning, or to start with, everything else you create more time for yourself, because you're more focused, you're more alert, you have more energy, you're more productive. And so it kind of, then that creates a good cycle.
Absolutely.
I love the idea of the cycle, and I'm going to ask Betty, like, what do you think can be rituals for MBA students that they can build? Because as I said, it's a long journey. So...
I mean, there's a lot of different rituals as we're talking, and I'm thinking of a million of them. I mean, there are small sort of daily ones, like the sort of really connecting back to your purpose. If there's a specific set of schools that you want to get into, really focusing on like, what are the, I think rituals help us connect to purpose and help us avoid distraction. And so that's a really helpful tool to be able to go into a place where you're reminding yourself why you're there. You're taking some gesture that can help you connect to that deeper sense of purpose, and then acting out of that clearer place. But I was also reminded, like, I have a ritual before I have like a really big thing. I have a big interview or a big presentation or something. And I have never told anyone about this. It's sort of funny because it's goofy. And I've been doing it since I was in high school. But I go into the bathroom and I look in the mirror, and I look in my left eye, like super deeply. And I just like vibe to this sense of like, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. And it's a super like weird little thing to do, but it always works for me because it gets me into that, like, I got this. And so there's affirmation in there. There's time to like, kind of project what I'm looking to project. I guess the point of the story though is really like finding some little thing that helps you feel like you're going to go in and kill it on these tests or whatever, like whatever that is for you. Some people it's a pose, some people it's listening to the particular music. So I think part of the work here is to really understand what are the things that work for you, what are the levers that help you. Obviously exercise is humongous, and I 100%, 1000% with nutrition and exercise. And like, what are the little tweaks that you can make in your, kind of pre-game, if you will, routines to give yourself a boost towards success?
Talking about the GMAT, I really want to let Bara weigh in, but when I'm coaching my clients, I do speak about how to approach the GMAT. I don't coach them on the specific questions and so forth, but I definitely recommend taking a pretest initially, like straight away, to get that like baseline score. And then as you develop your customized study plan, you're going to see growth, you're going to see improvement, and that just builds your confidence, right? And what you're talking about, these affirmations, kind of combating that negative self-talk that all of us have at some point. People are stressing because like, oh, my girlfriend got a great score, but if I don't get a score as high as her, is she going to break up with me? Or like, if I don't get into the top school, like, is my family going to be embarrassed of me or whatever? And we put so much pressure. So it's so important. I love that ritual with your left eye. That's unique to you, but just as a good example of how to, repeat to yourself in those affirmations, because we really do take in so much negativity without even realizing it. And it's so important to counteract that. But yeah.
So much research too that show that affirmations work. I mean, I'm really interested in that data too, that when we have a negative mindset and a negative story, it affects outcome. I mean, to me, that's really powerful and really a good testament for these affirmations.
It works in either direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so if we have a proclivity, or we've been trained, or we have this we were taught formatively to like think negatively about ourselves, or to think negatively about how we show up for something, then we actually have to actively and intentionally just short circuit that loop to create something positive. And the small wins make so much sense. And I know that often on MBA Waves I do talk about dogs and you hear them. And I got to tell you, I just got this new foster, and I've done all the things that you guys are talking about, besides the spiritual, in the sense that I'm giving it a warm home, I'm giving it love, I'm giving it positive reinforcement. If the food has totally changed, they totally are de-stressed. And I'm seeing in a week and a half in an animal, like I'm just using this as my research, and everything that you're talking about for humans and MBA students, I'm seeing in this foster dog, Murph Ball, I call him Murphy, like, his skin is clearing up. He looks like a completely different dog. Like, he's coming into himself. So if it could happen that easily with a creature, it's happening to us too, even if we don't see those changes happening, right? Like, every meal is a small step. Every non-processed food choice, you don't make that choice. You're making a step in the direction you want to go in. And it has a cumulative effect. So just needed to put a cameo of Murphy in, because I've really noticed in the past week and a half, it's just a complete transformation, and that happens to us too.
Murph Ball is going to kill that GMAT. Alison, I want to ask you, speaking of food and nutrition, like, what are some things we can consider for a reboot? Like, why cleanses work or do not work? What's your take on that? A lot of people are into these fads, I guess. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question. It certainly is timely as we're moving into the new year here. So I think that, this doesn't have to be complicated. And I think we tend to make nutrition very complicated. I mean, my first response is where is the individual at, in terms of the, what kind of choices are they making, generally speaking? Like, how would they sort of, describe the quality of their diet, right? And that's their starting place. So many people who might be leaning into processed foods, a lot of sugar, like what we're talking about, just making the shift to whole foods, right, will have a dramatic improvement on their overall health. And that in itself will be the reboot. And not even necessarily needing to shift from one to the other 100%, right? It's gradual, it's sort of on a gradient, but you'll notice that as you make slow changes, as Bara is speaking to, like, you can really reap some pretty incredible benefits pretty quickly. So I think, when it comes to these real intensive cleanses where we're going lemon water cayenne cleanses and things, I don't think that they're necessary. And in fact, our liver really needs some vital nutrients to detoxify our blood and move things to elimination. So we need good nutrition. And so this means that we don't have to go to extremes, to get the reboot we needed. I mean, some things as simple as drinking water. I mean, we say it's the most simplest, healthy behavior we can have, and yet most of us are still not drinking enough water. So, easily minimum 2, 3, 4, 4 liters of water a day is really what we need. And you can recognize if you've been a little dehydrated, you drink some water, and all of a sudden, wow, like your brain perks up. You have more energy, right? So hydration is super key. I think that just getting like a reboot of, and especially coming off the holidays where there's like a lot of indulgent meals maybe and parties and alcohol, etc. It's getting back to basics, getting back to consistent meal times, right? Not skipping meals, not going long hours without eating, because what we're trying to do is balance blood sugars again. And when we have those balanced blood sugars, then we can get control of our cravings, our appetite. We can build more energy, not kind of have those mood and energy crashes. So meal consistency, making sure we're getting in, a lot of really good quality protein, getting in those deep green leafy vegetables, which themselves are going to really support liver detox pathways. These are really basic things that we can all do, and they really can have a pretty dramatic benefit. Now, there are some really good benefits too to intermittent fasting for those of you, out there who are interested and curious. So intermittent fasting, there's lots of different ways you can do it. It's not necessarily about energy or calorie restriction as a whole. It's really about, just sort of taking the calories that you need and limiting the time of day that you eat them. And it really does actually give your gut a rest. It really, it helps digestion, sort of, it gives your digestive system, that a bit of that rest. It helps to improve insulin sensitivity, to help balance blood sugars. So
Immune system boosting, I've heard as well.
What's that?
Immune boosting, like immune system boosting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how long do you fast for in an intermittent fasting period?
What's that?
How long do you recommend people fast for intermittent fasting?
It really depends on the person, and it depends, you wouldn't go immediately to a 24-hour fast. I would say, to start off, a really good place to be would be like a 12-hour fast. So, stop eating at 8 p.m., have your first meal again at 8 a.m. I mean, it's a pretty doable 12-hour overnight. There's 16-8 where you're fasting for 16 hours, eating for, in the 8-hour time frame. So there's different ways you can do it. And I think you want to kind of build up to longer fasts and just sort of assess your tolerance to it. If you have issues with cortisol, this intermittent fasting isn't necessarily for everyone, disordered eating habits or a history of. But I think what it all gets down to is ultimately is like what works for you, and really figuring out the plan that's going to work for you. And that really kind of comes back to how you prepare, how you sit for an exam, right? Same way that we wouldn't tell a marathon runner to try like a new protein powder on race day. Don't try a new nutrition something or other supplement, on test day, right? So it really is, I think, doing a lot of trial and error and figuring out what works.
Alison, you mentioned supplements. I wanted to ask you, what's your take on supplements, vitamins, herbals? Like, you believe in this stuff?
I mean, I personally just, for people who are just trying to maintain good health, I don't necessarily recommend a ton of supplements. I think there are some basic ones that magnesium, fish oil, vitamin D, a multivitamin, pretty basic. If I'm working with someone who has a lot of issues with their hormone imbalances, then I definitely look to herbs and supplements, but that's a whole another conversation. So, they have a place. I think, you want to do your research and understand the real therapeutic effects of the supplement. What's the therapeutic dose? Make sure that you're looking to the science to inform your decision. And then, I think we want to make sure that we are absorbing the benefit of the supplement. We need to have healthy digestion. If we're not digesting our food, we're not digesting our supplements. So I think there's some, different considerations, but basic supplementation, just a few of those that I mentioned, I think are good foundation.
And if I may, Jason, obviously working in sports fitness, I mean, like supplements are a big topic, but not necessarily somebody who's looking to bodybuild, but somebody who is trying to maintain a good level of health and balance, especially throughout this intense period of MBA application cycle. Are there any supplements that you recommend, or not really?
Well, yeah, it's do you know what's interesting? As I've gone, when I was young, I mean, I've been in the industry for 15 years now, and I think when I first started, I was big hot on, getting my clients to have all the supplements and they needed. And then I found out that, as I went on, I kind of realized that as long as if they can get their supplements from their actual food, then they don't need that many supplements. As you said, it depends on the person and what they might be lacking. I mean, I have two supplements. I have a ZMA in the evening, which I don't know whether it's a placebo, but it tends to help me sleep. So it could be, I don't know. But if it helps me sleep, then it works. And I have protein. I have a protein shake in the morning, and then a protein shake after I've trained. For me, it's more for timing. So it's so quick and simple. I put banana, oats, peanut butter, milk, and protein powder. It tastes amazing. It's quick and simple, and it increases my daily protein intake, which is what I need. After I've trained as well, I had my protein shake afterwards. I mean, there's different theories about whether or not there's that 30-minute window, which we were told when I was young, you had 30 minutes to get your protein in after training, which now is actually a myth. And I think it was put out there by the supplement kings. I don't know, but it worked. It worked. Everyone bought protein powders and things. But listen, as I said, if there's timing, right? So people are short on time. So if they're lacking a certain supplement, protein, then I think that it's worthwhile just adding that into your nutrition.
Nice.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, Jason and Alison, in the sense that these are small things that people can do, and there's no one recipe or one solution for everybody. And it's just like our MBA applications. We always say that everything is unique. So go as per what you feel is right, and present the
Apart from
right.
water, you're spot on with the water. Everyone needs water. I have a pint every morning, and I got Eric to do it actually.
It's true. I did get that.
Yeah, pint first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and I always thought that diets should come with this warning saying that do not do this unless you have like supervision. Right, because some of them don't work and they just like crazy for people and so on.
Well, I mean, you are what you eat, first of all. And the other thing is there's so much information out there, like with every subject, sifting through the fake news, which is why it's so helpful to have people who know what they're talking about. And it is really case by case because everyone's physiology is different, and down to like the hormone level, anyway. No, I mean, a lot of you guys have been talking about routine and planning, and that kind of comes back to what my personal New Year's resolution was, which is about discipline. And I have a question, like I want to ask for me, even like, when you get in that moment and you're in the zone, like whether it's Betty sitting down to write a book and she's like, it's really flowing, or you're sitting there crunching GMAT questions and you're in that zone and you've scheduled that lunch break, right? Or that 20-minute cardio thing. How do you balance scheduling and when you have those zone moments where you're really producing? What do you guys have to say about that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think ideally, I mean, one day I think is not going to make or break. I think actually if you're in a zone, that's beautiful creative time that I think you want to harness. And then if you, ideally there's some flexibility that you're able to kind of incorporate into your day so that if that workout doesn't happen, at that time because you're in a flow state, that you have 30 minutes later on where you can plug it in. And obviously that's not going to be the case for every single day, but you know, and these flow state days, you know, like that doesn't happen all the time either. And so if you generally are just sticking to a routine that works for you, it's going to support you in these days when, you know, when things don't work out perfectly. And that is totally fine. And I think it's just doing what we can to make it up. And if we can't make it up, then just, you know, getting back on on track the next day.
Yeah. A lot of my clients, when I'm giving them kind of tasks to do, so say if I only see them for once a week, let's say, I mean, they've got 6 other days where obviously seeing me for an hour in a week is not gonna, I'm good, but I'm not that good. So I set them targets to do outside of the, you know, in their week. But it's funny how not everyone, but a lot of the time they get so down if I see them on the Monday, let's say, and they're like, oh, you know, I only managed to do once. And they beat themselves up about the fact that they didn't get that in for reasons like you said, Eric. You know, there could be, you know, they were in the flow when they were supposed to go to do the class, so they cancelled a class because they were busy and they were getting on with something that perhaps they were a sticky point. And it's so important to just reset yourself and just be like, do you know what, that didn't happen today, but I got this achieved. Tomorrow's another day. Let's start again. Because what happens is, you say, for example, I said, right, okay, so Tuesday you're going to go and do this class, and I recommend a class for them to do, and they couldn't do it because of that. It then kind of ruins the rest of their week. They think, well, I've missed that, and I'm not going to, and they get on this negative part of their week, and then it's not until they see me again on Monday when I can kind of give them the positivity that they go, okay, well, that's okay. But if they kind of manage to think that on the end of that Tuesday where they go, well, I didn't manage to do it, you know, okay, Wednesday, let's see what we can do on Wednesday. And you kind of don't get into that negative kind of cycle.
Got to be kinder to ourselves, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is one of like the most important life skills that we'll ever learn. And I think, you know, this idea of managing time, which is a precious resource. And so the ability to be able to say, you know what, I was in flow state. I mean, flow state and creativity is like really high level time use, right? Because when you're really in that zone, that's really, it's very efficient. It's fun. You're nourished by it. Your soul is fed by it. You're grooving and you're feeling really great. And so the time to work out can be that as well. And you can actually get in flow state when you're working out as well. So it's you know, and eating well and all these things. I think it's a matter of being able to step back and, like Jason was saying, like have more of a, you know, to interrupt those negative thought forms and being able to say, you know what, I'm going to rock this thing. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just going to do it, you know, after, you know, I get done with this class or whatever, like figuring out a time that you can still do it so that you're balancing it like over the course of, say, a week, not every day. And that the growth mindset piece of, well, I didn't do it today and I can still do it tomorrow, you know, is really, I think the core benefit here is to be able to do that. And then, you know, and have those flow state moments and be flexible. So structure and flexibility is a constant tension in life. And I think when we can figure out how to work that tension and balance it, that's a great life skill. That is really hard, and it's hard. So it's, you know, it takes practice. It's not going to be like easy peasy for everyone. It can be a lot of work.
That's good advice. I see Jason drinking his water over there. Good man.
I have like my really bad coffee right here. I haven't been drinking it because I'm embarrassed. I don't have water in here.
You know, the other thing that you're all talking about, this discipline, you know, you've got the discipline piece, and then you've got the maybe chaos, you can call it. Like Jason talked about, you know, you can walk from point A to point B, right? You can integrate your life with all these pieces. Alison, you spoke about thinking about your week ahead and what food you're going to have, right? For our test prep students, I ask them, especially the 2 weeks before their test, what is your nutrition going to be like? You know, what is that going to look like? Because if you can't make your food ahead of time and know that you're going to have good meals, then I tell them to order those, you know, boxes from these really healthy alternatives. Like, great, have someone else make them, but have them be whole food, right? Set yourself up for success. Set yourself up in that discipline piece that you're looking for, Eric, right? Like, how do you set the parameters, the boundaries, the saying no, Kritika, right? How do you say no to like all of the not grabbing something from a vending machine, right? Versus, you know, just thinking about just a little bit of pre-planning is useful, even especially I would imagine, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, when you're trying to turn something into a habit or turn something into a ritual, you know, making the choice of going up the stairs instead of the elevator, right? If it's a reasonable number of stairs, like, how do we bring that intention? And I think, Betty, that calls forth what you're talking about, right? In bringing that moment, bringing the sacredness of the moment of what choice do you want to make right here and now, gazing into the eye, like gazing into yourself.
Yeah. You know, my yoga teacher used to say, she always had this phrase, do what you're doing while you're doing it. And sort of this idea of presence and awareness. And I feel like that is the way to bring awareness to a habit. Like, I love your question, because like that habit can be so negative and it can be so positive. And it's a real, you know, we have opportunities to tweak our habits all the time. And so, for example, the one that I use with a lot of my clients is the morning routine, right? You get up, you do you comb your hair, you shower, coffee, you get on your phone. Oh my God, what's going on? Oh my God, the January 6th committee. Oh my God, the internet. Like, you're in this, like, and by the time you're even leaving, you know, logging in or whatever you go, your already brain is like, psh, you know, you're just like, oh my God, I can't. And then, you know, to just put that away, have the phone in a different room, you know, sit down with a book or with a journal or with your computer and just be really intentional about how you're going to spend that day. That is just a habit that can be really generative and becomes a really healthy habit, as opposed to, or, you know, and making juice can be a really generative habit instead of a toxic one. It's really important.
Yeah, and I think I would just add, you know, just having even the awareness of the habitual practices that either support us or are kind of keeping us from actually, or not working for us, essentially. And I think that this is where doing some reflection work, you know, you have an idea of kind of like maybe what your health goals are and what the behaviors are, and identifying just those things that are, you know, that are getting in your way. I mean, and just really building some awareness around them, you know, like, oh, I always take the elevator, or always try and find the closest parking space, or, you know, I always just, you know, pass the vending machine and grab something. And so spending some deliberate time to really identify or understand your health behaviors, what's working, what's not. And then, you know, through, you know, with Betty's practices and, you know, thinking about meditation, the helpfulness of meditation, to really be able to be present in the moment, and then have a, you know, to be able to stop, breathe, and decide, you know, to choose something different. But I think it really starts with that awareness. I think that's really key.
So journaling is so good, or keeping a diary at least, or marking on your calendar. Like, I think most of us are living in autopilot a lot of the time, and taking that time, again, setting aside time for planning and being strategic and being intentional, puts you in the right mindset for being able to attack and achieve those goals, which, as Jason was saying, it like kind of feeds you back. If you're taking that moment to exercise and taking the moment to prepare and eat the proper food, it feeds your brain and spirit, so you're more focused, you're more efficient, and you can benefit from that. And it's a positive cycle.
Yeah, and from what I heard from everybody is that while someone is going through this whole application journey, they're also going to be learning how to balance their extremely crazy MBA lives, because life in the program is going to be like a 60 to 80 hours, you know, easily. And so what they're gaining while they prep for this is like a way of coping with the rigors of, you know, the academics, the networking, and of course, like having something that's going to benefit them for a really long time.
Yeah, I always say that the whole process is it's like a fractal, right? Like how they're studying, how they're looking at the schools, how they're doing the interviews, like it's all an opportunity for them to reflect who they want to be in that moment, right? So it's not like, I love New Year's because it does, I mean, it's interesting, in Judaism, there's 4 New Years, right? So you have 4 opportunities to actually create that shift. But anything that has an opportunity to launch into the way that you want to be is a great opportunity. Even the application cycle and starting business school, right? That becomes, what habits do you want to start when you start a new program, right? You get to be a different person. You get to make different choices. But it's like universally, I actually read some research that 45% of Americans say that they usually make New Year's resolutions, right? But only 8% are successful in actually achieving their goals, right? So how do we ensure that we meet our goals? How do we help our students meet those goals and our clients meet their goals? You know, and I think that I'm a big fan of growth mindset. We've mentioned
and balancing that with being kind to ourselves if we don't reach them. It's like this double. I don't know. You're like managing two horses. One of them pulling you in the direction of growth and advancement and achievement. The other one in more like a slow and steady, but kind to yourself and acceptance of who we are. It's also part of it. It's such a hard thing to balance, but it's so vital.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in say when you kind of talk about fail. Now, obviously, in my life, there's so many things I've failed, but the reality is that I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot from I learned more from my failures than I did from my being successful. So, you know, like I've fallen down a lot in my life, and every time it's you know, you build yourself back up and you learn more about yourself and you learn more about life through those failures. So, you know, don't be afraid to fail with something. You know, if you set a New Year's resolution and you fail it, ask yourself perhaps why you failed, what happened. You know, it's not the end of the world. You can start again, you know, learn from it. So I think it's really important.
And it's interesting about how we do this thing every year. A lot of people in a lot of countries around the world, we have this day where we say, okay, I'm going to do something new. I'm going to be somebody different, whatever it may be. And yet every single day is an opportunity to do that, right? Every time morning, you guys were talking about, oh, Jason was saying like, oh, I didn't get to do this exercise today, but tomorrow's a new day. And so I think it's a good day to think about a resolution every day in a way. Guys, it's been fascinating talking with you. You guys are all wonderful and offer so many insights. I know this episode will be valuable to so many people. Any last bit of advice? We have just a couple of minutes left before we got to wrap it up for today. So for anyone who's going for the MBA, preparing those GMAT tests or going for an interview, anything you want to add, a final bit of advice or well wish for 2023?
Well, embrace failure as a learning. That embracing is just so important forever in the rest of your life. You know, if it doesn't work out, then what? Then keep going, and it's a great piece of data.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that there's no such thing as perfection, and we really have to remind ourselves that, you know, there's good enough, and that perfection is just a goal that's unsustainable and really not achievable. And you know, what is good enough, and how can we continue to show up in the best way what we can with what's available to us. And so I think losing perfection, maybe that's a New Year's intention, is resolving to just let go of perfection.
Letting go of perfection, which doesn't exist anyway.
It's an illusion.
Jay, anything to add?
I think with regards to kind of not being afraid to fail, and if you do, you know, learn from that, and that's probably the best thing you can do. You learn so much from actually, you know, putting yourself out there. And like example for me, this is the first time I've done a podcast. You know, like, and I was nervous about it, but do you know, it was kind of like, do you know what, I'm going to do this. Obviously, my job is one-to-one with people, personal training, so this is completely out of my comfort zone, but I've really enjoyed it, you know. And it's kind of like I may have messed up a few slurring or something, I don't know, but I've really enjoyed this, and it's been so good to meet these people as well, and I've learned from this, so it's fantastic. So, you know, don't be afraid to try something and fail.
Every day's a school day.
Pouring yourself once a day is not a bad thing, right? Like doing something every day that's out of your comfort zone is actually just that energy that Alison was talking about. That gives me energy when I'm scared, man. Like that just gets my energy up. So congratulations.
I love that.
We have a challenge shot from trying something new, right?
Yeah. And I want to probably leave people with this quote that I really love from James Clear. You know, he says that you do not raise to the level of your goals, but you fall down to the systems that you have. So one thing I would want people to tell, that if you're going to embark on this long journey, be very clear about the systems that you have in place to cushion your fall, because you are going to fall. It doesn't happen without you falling in it, but that's why you have all the support around. And I would also say, please enjoy the process, because I feel that a lot of people are so anxious and they miss the main point, which is like basically transformation. So I would say that, focus on transformation with focusing on enjoying the process, and not really like thinking about, I want to get into this goal or that goal, always having that anxiety, which kinds of, makes it all messy, like how Betty said in the beginning, right? So you just want to enjoy the process.
I guess I will add one thing too before we wrap it up, and it comes back to conventional wisdom, which I think what this is all about anyway, just a very eloquently said version of it. But that old parable of the strength to change the things about you that you can, the solace to accept the things you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. So in terms of growth mindset and progress and growing your career, getting to the top MBA program and having an amazing career afterwards, that's what it's about, right? It's about balancing those things. Once again, thank you guys all for joining us today. It's been super insightful, super fun. And I wish you all a happy new year, happy holidays, happy new year. And for those of us listening, MBA Waves is taking a break off next week. And we'll be starting off the year. We're putting together an exciting program of all new episodes, themes, topics, guests, and top business schools that will be joining us on MBA Waves. So happy holidays, happy new year, and see you all in 2023 on MBA Waves. Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.